It will be a travesty of truth to hold general students responsible for the mindless death and destruction. We also reject and condemn such moves to achieve political goals using our movement, revealed several organizers of the movement for reformation of quota in government jobs.
আমাদের এই ব্যানারটিকে ব্যবহার করে কেউ যদি আসলে তার রাজনৈতিক উদ্দেশ্য হাসিলের চেষ্টা না অপচেষ্টা করে এবং সেটাকে কাজে লাগিয়ে আসলে জ্বালাও পোড়া ভাঙচুর কিংবা এই সহিংসতাগুলো করে, সেটাকে আমরা কখনোই সমর্থন করি না, সে দায় তাদের।
From what we have seen, we can say it for certain that those who torched the Setu building in Mohakhali were not students. They added a separate agenda, added an eyewitness according to media reports.
আসলে দেখে ওরকম ছাত্র মনে হয় নাই, খুব একটা মনে হয়েছে যে বাইরে বহিরাগত যারা আছে ওরকম লোক মনে হয়েছে, ছাত্রদেরকে ওরকম মনে হয় না।
Journalists covering the mayhem reported that those perpetrating the violence are not students. These accounts blew up a series of efforts by BNP Jamaat to blame the violence on students. But the reality is different. Students will not take any responsibility for the loss of 50 lives. They have zero involvement in the apocalyptic violence in many places across the country and complete destruction of mega projects like metro rail in the capital and across the country. The evil attempt to blame students for the crimes they didn't commit is designed to hide the real identity of attackers. Targeted attacks on law enforcers and ruthless demonstration of violence that brought public lives to a standstill are not done by students. Even several hundreds of militant sympathizers attacked the Norshindi jail and set free two militants from an outlawed militant group who were serving sentences in the prison, as the entire prison was torched. As many as 816 convicted criminals and terrorists were also freed, while armories were looted, including hundreds of firearms and 7,500 rounds of bullets. In the wake of such open confession and witnesses' accounts come the question which group or political identity might get involved in such violence. The return of carnage started soon after Tariq Rahman, the fugitive acting chief of BNP, threatened for a complete shutdown across the country on July 17 on a Facebook post from London that held ominous portents of violence. This veiled threat is not an isolated one. In reality, in the run-up to the violence, Tariq Rahman even asked publicly that the fate of the country to be decided on the streets. A similar call before the polls saw a wave of arson and vandalism to keep voters away from polls. And such targeted attack on law enforcers, wreaking havoc on the streets, follows a particular pattern. Even before the 2024 national polls, BNP Jamaat cadres reportedly unleashed similar violence that saw scores injured and dozens dead. 3 months before the polls, Tariq Rahman has also issued a similar warning that the fate of the country to be decided on the streets, not the polls. 6 months after failing to capture power with violent agitation, Tariq yet again came up with a similar threat that found series of unprecedented carnage on the streets. On the other hand, before and after the 2014 election, there has been violence all out across the country, reportedly by Jamaat BNP cadres. Look at Dhaka. Over thousands of passengers faced the fury of Tariq supporters, given an underpass right beneath the Mirpur 10 metro station was set on fire while the train was crossing on Thursday. The next day, Mirpur 10 and Kazipara metro station was also vandalized. a glimpse into violence. Why general students and BNP Jamaat stand poles apart? Feeling betrayed by BNP's call to join the outfit's bid to capture power with violence, general students in Dhaka University and several other public universities have vacated the dormitory in accordance with the government call to close the educational institutions temporarily. Till July 17 evening, BNP-backed teachers openly campaigned on the campus, asking students not to leave the dormitories. Before the announcement of complete shutdown by Tariq Rahman for July 18th, leaders of BNP and Jamaat also asked students not to leave. Aware of the nefarious plot by BNP Jamaat to use them for the combined regime change agenda, they rejected the call and left. General students who were involved in movement for quota reform are against violence, but Islami Chhatra Shibir, the student wing of Jamaat-e-Islami, is directly involved in violence, said a press statement issued by general students in Rajshahi University. It further said that Shibir activists are not on a mission to mislead general students and instigate them into violent activities. It further said that Shibir activists are on a mission to mislead general students and instigate them into violent activities. Though general students rejected BNP Jamaat's bid to use them to capture power, spin doctors of the combine still out to project this mindless violence as work of general students. Why government and general students stand on same page on quota reformation? Since the beginning of the movement, government and students both stood on the same page, as the movement started only after a High Court ruling that first abolished a 2018 government declaration that ended the quota system in jobs. Immediately, the government went to the court and challenged the move that sought to introduce 56% quota on government jobs. At the same time, the movement on educational institutions began, where general students also demanded for 56% quota reform. And the latest verdict that called for 93% recruitment on the basis on merit has also been welcomed by the organizers of the movement that started since last week in June. So, the plot to slap the blame on students for the violence would help BNP Jamaat terrorists conceal their true identity and embolden them with impunity.